Okay, so we come to the last panel, which is diasporas and social media. Now, instead of Glenda going first, we're going to have Larissa Hjorth, Professor Larissa Hjorth, Dr. Joanna, is it Joanna? Jolynna. Jolynna, is that correct?
Joe is fine.
Joe's Sinanan's paper also by Sarah Pink and Heather Horst, who are not here, I think. Yeah, and then Glenda will do her paper. All right. So can you please put your hands together and welcome Larissa?
Okay, so we've already. Firstly, I just wanted to just say, has everyone seen that cover of Kat's new book? It is fabulous. I think it's awesome. So I reckon we should all go out and buy one. And I also want to thank. I want to thank you also because these kind of events are really hard to organise and it takes a lot of work and a lot of unseen labour around there. So I just want to firstly just thank Kat for all her hard work. It's hard work. All right, so now I'm going to get onto the fun. Talking about hard, now this is going to be the fun bit. So Jolynna has already introduced the project that we're working on, which is a ARC linkage with Intel, looking at, basically it was looking at intergenerational cross-cultural relationships in the home. And it was looking in Japan, looking in Tokyo, Shanghai and Melbourne, and trying to kind of probe them. So we looked at the idea of locative media as part of a broader mediascape. And what actually started to happen as the study started to unfold over 3 years is that we've started to look less at locative media because we've actually seen ways in which people don't use locative media or actually try and circumnavigate to not use it, or, for example, don't share photos. So actually what we thought we were looking at, we've come across practices which are actually trying to push back against. So for this talk, I thought I would focus on one of the kind of smaller bits about affective labour that operates particularly in terms of the idea of intimate co-presence and affective care at a distance. So it all starts with this. Okay, how many people know what this is? You can't, you know what? Like, yeah. But it's not just a poo, it's an emoji poo. So it's a special poo, okay? So this has actually gone into MoMA. Okay, so recently it joined the collection of in New York, the kind of pièce de resistance of art museums, MoMA, has actually now collected, as part of their collection, emojis. And of course, this caused outrage because are emojis art? You know, so Jonathan Jones in the Guardian, he said, it's like a teacher trying to twerk. Right? For those that don't know what twerking is, if you go online right now and have a look, I probably won't see you for a while. But let's just say it's a very contemporary dance move and that it's supposedly white girls can't do it. So anyway, that's all I can say about that one. So it's very controversial. Is this art? Now, I would argue, yes, it is, because it's the art of communication today. It really is central to so much intergenerational kind of relationships and maintaining them and saying things that are often tacit and feeling emotions. So I just want to take you through a kind of a little wander through the emoji landscape. Wants to stay on the emoji. Okay, so contemporary digital media practice has been defined as playful. The use of emoticons, or now emojis, has become an increasingly popular and playful way of personalising digital media communications. As we know, the emoji was invented in Japan around 1999 to address the complex social engagement with keitai, or mobile contexts. And we have to understand this historically, particularly around the evolution of cute or kawaii cultures in Japan, combating premature adulthood and also using it for gender subversions. And it's part of a broader kind of entanglement between a play, affect and labour. For example, the rise of mobile keitai cultures in Japan was marked by a personalisation culture both inside and outside. So initially, as we know, the phone was kind of had material, Hello Kitties hanging off there, etc. And then as it became more sophisticated and polymedia, it actually started going more inside the phone. These material and immaterial practices can be linked to older rituals around the personal. The historical context in Japan offers a starting point for considering how some of these practices have come about and suggests that we would likewise find similar but differently visible forms of cute customisation in other cultures. While it's not our objective to take the question up here, we point to this example as an indication that all such uses are likely to be historically embedded, and take this as a point of departure for contemporary contexts of our ethnographic research with families. We have found that the now ubiquitous, also uneven, uptake of mobile social media in the Asia-Pacific region, through that localised forms of cute character culture has become prevalent across cultures, and particularly intergenerationally. Now, I've got to say there's also some misunderstandings intergenerationally too as well, but we're not going to focus on that quite yet. So our research has shown how grandparents, parents and children across Australian, Japanese and Chinese research sites have all been found to be deploying emojis, emoticons and social media stickers. So platforms like Line, WeChat and WhatsApp use what has been called the level up of emojis, which is stickers, in playful ways that are tied to generational norms, as well as providing new and playful ways to transgress those intergenerational boundaries. So we argue that the emojis and stickers can provide us with an affective care at a distance and a co-present intimacy that not only helps bind families when they're experiencing geographic distance, but also helps to provide playful and creative ways for intergenerational literacy and connection. Okay, so researching emojis ethnographically. So to understand the emoji and how they fit into everyday life and its effective and mundane routines and intimacies requires us to go beyond standard interviewing methods and towards ethnographic techniques that enable the researcher to engage empathetically with people's intimate experiences in mundane life. To research emoji use, we invited participants to meet us for intensive but short-term research encounters, during which we asked them to show their technologies and to perform or to reenact some of the kind of practices. In particular, we started focusing on hands, and this became an article led by Sarah about tactile ethnography, which was partly done to get away from ethics, all those kind of things, particularly when you're doing intergenerational. And as soon as you put emojis and games and, under 18, the bells go off with ethics, and, you can spend like 2 years waiting for it to get through. So we were like, okay, so it was a bit of a kind of like, let's work around ethics this way. But it also became really interesting because more and more you're seeing some really interesting things happening in and around the haptic screen. Like, for example, if you've seen someone using Pokemon Go, it's a completely different haptic relationship to anything else. So people, you can see them doing it because they're going like this, because they're trying to get the ball to kind of shoot, right? And you don't do that for anything else. If you think about the way that you scroll through reading and things like that, it's actually a different relationship to the media, and it's a very, very tactile one. So by focusing on the hands, it allows us to understand what are the hands saying that perhaps the people aren't saying. So sometimes you can say, do you use the internet much? And people go, no. And then if you probe them and actually get them to take you step by step all the times and you time it over a period, they'll actually go by the end, oh my God, I'm addicted. Thank you for sharing. So it's actually getting them to reenact and think through, because they become so mundane that often they can't see how much they're using it. So we've seen this idea of tactile ethnography as a really important part of opening up those kind of affective feelings, experience, and the sensorial experiences around haptic technologies. So anyway, that was our kind of angle. Sorry. I love it, talking about technology and unable to actually practice it. So the next thing is actually thinking about emojis, stamps, and the politics of effective labour. So as Stark and Crawford note, Line, which is the dominant, it's the Facebook in Japan, has introduced the next level emoji through the deployment of stickers. Facebook Messenger also has its own version of stickers. So there's kind of a sticker off happening in the social media world. As Stark and Crawford note, stickers, crucially, are proprietary to each platform that sells them. And they see this as kind of, a form of a kind of commodification. The emoji, like the original smiley, can be understood as an expression of cruel optimism. Like, think about when you perhaps don't understand the context properly and you send someone a smiley face. Like, that's like, you might as well be swearing at them, And I've just got to say, when I was living in Korea, I thought I had emoticons. This is I thought I had emoticons down packed, and I was actually using a ironic, grumpy face with people, which I thought was a cute face. And I was wondering why. And finally, somebody came up to me and said, "Why are you using that one?" And I'm like, "Well, because doesn't it mean like..." And they're like, "It's like that teacher doing the twerky, right?" Yeah, it's just like, I'm so off it. So it's so easy to sometimes get them wrong as well. And I think what's happening more and more is that in terms of those intergenerational, is like you're getting the young people teaching their parents and grandparents actually what those things mean, which is really interesting in that sense. So affective theorist Lauren Bellent defines this idea of cruel optimism as a state, as an affective zone in which the object-subject that ignites a sense of possibility actually makes it impossible to attain the expansive transformation for what a person or a people risking striving for. So it's like, wow, that's really... Now, I would say that the emoji, like thinking about emojis as cruel optimism is perhaps limiting the possibility. And what we've actually found in ethnographic research is actually the reverse. Like, it's actually quite a really meaningful part of effective care cultures at a distance. So I just want to take you through a couple of examples. Oh, taking you back. I'm going to test you. Okay, so we start in Japan. So as we know, that keitai has played a very important role in Japanese culture, and particularly around 2000, IMO took off, and basically people leapfrogged into using the internet through the mobile. So it's a very different context. They've always thought about the internet and the mobile as the same thing, whereas in somewhere like Melbourne, we've actually had to kind of slowly get used to experiencing the internet through the mobile. So, but one of the fundamental things that NTT Docomo did when it launched the iMode service was it made kawaii customisation and emoticons central to its logic. And this has been expanded in the rise of smartphones. So I just want to point to one of our participants, Hiruko. So Hiruko is a 22-year-old undergraduate student who lives with her parents. But she has a younger brother as well. Now, her brother has been going back and forth overseas for the last 3 years. And what they've done is they've actually started using Line as a way for thinking through the digital genealogy. So she has a closer relationship with her mother. So she has a Line group, which is just for her and her mother, that is the most rapid one that's used. And this is the one where most of the emojis are actually being used. So they will often have long discussions where few words are actually shared, and it's just feelings. Whereas for Hiraku, the idea of actually sharing with her father would be just crazy because he just wouldn't understand it. So there's all these different logics being used, and often in very kind of tacit ways. So I'm just going to read a little quote from her. For sharing information with family, Facebook is not convenient. Line is very useful in sending messages, pictures, videos, etc. When family members' lifestyles start to change, we became Line users. Line's design is very nice. It feels like we are talking. It's not like email. When my brother graduated from college abroad, he sent us a word message with pictures and emojis online, sharing them for sharing his experience and appreciation to the family. At the time, I was away from Japan studying, and my father was also on a business trip. All the family members were in different places. It was very moving to see my brother's message online, and we all felt it was a very warm moment. One of the things that she also talks about is that, she's always sending it. She couldn't ever imagine going emoji with her father, that in that way, she thought it was a very gendered kind of medium in that sense. But she also thought about it as something that embeds intimate and sometimes sensitive emotional exchanges, more than words. Oh, back again. Okay, I will get it eventually. Okay, Shanghai. So I realise it's been spoken about a bit already. So as we know, instant messages like QQ and WeChat have been widely used in mainland China. WeChat, launched in 2011, has become the most popular social media among family members across the whole Chinese society. Now, according to Tenet's recent published interim report, WeChat's monthly active users exceeded 0.76 billion. Okay, all right, I'm just going to run through this very quickly. So there was recently, in terms of QQ, was one of the first really taught people how to use emoticons and then emojis. So in the China emoji user report, it noted that more than 90% of its 0.8 billion QQ users have used emoji during chatting, with a total emoji usage around about 533 billion. Okay, that's a lot of emojis. So I just want to turn to Helen. So Helen is a graduate student in Shanghai. So like most students, she's from Suchang, and she moved at age 18 to Shanghai. The first thing she did was teach her mother how to use social media. So they particularly use WeChat. And during that process, she said that she felt really great teaching her mother how to use it, because she said, my mother's taught me everything and now I can finally return it back to her. So there was a really warm, fuzzy moment. She taught her parents how to use emojis. And now what has happened, so she would take pictures and her parents would give text, and now they've slowly started using emojis, and now they're actually uploading pictures. So it's not just them commenting on her experiences. They're actually, when they go away on a weekend, they upload pictures and they also use emojis without just her responding to her emojis. And she says, my parents use the thumb up and smiling emoticons the most. Besides these, they use other positive stickers, which often show love and care. Okay, so briefly to... Okay, no, we're going back. I'm going back. Okay. And to Melbourne. So luckily, Jolynna's already introduced Nancy, so I'll go very quickly through Nancy. So Nancy, as we know, we've already visited, she migrated from Singapore, and she's Chinese. She's 53. She lives with her husband and daughter in the outer western suburbs of Melbourne, and so she uses WhatsApp. And particularly she uses WhatsApp for her nephews and nieces in Singapore. And as she says, I think they see a different side of me when we chat. It's not like strict auntie when I visit, because she's softened the relationships through these emoticons. It's like she's able to do the twerk dance in that sense. And, often their exchanges will finish with a kind of thumbs up or a high five or laughing emojis. And so this is really useful role for her to kind of transgress from that strict auntie thing that she was quite concerned about. So I'm just going to quickly, because I'm just mindful that conclusion. Okay, so recently literature in fields such as social media have started to take emojis seriously as part of the effective labour landscape and playbook of contemporary digital media. In this literature, work and young people have been the focus. However, little has been conducted into how these effective practices play out within families, especially in terms of families grappling with physical distance and diaspora. In this paper, we have demonstrated how intergenerational relationships have and forms of distance and absence are translated into experiences of co-presence through the use of emojis. Drawing from fieldwork conducted in 3 locations over 3 years, we have sought to understand emojis as a nuanced practice that attends to and constitutes the mundane intimacies of everyday life in ways that other languages cannot. We argue that the emoji and stickers can provide an effective care at a distance and a co-present intimacy that contributes in playful and meaningful ways to intergenerational literacy and connection. Thank you. Just on time. Phew.
Okay. Do we have any questions from Larissa while she drinks?
Guzzles.
Yeah. Fran.
Thanks. Thanks, Larissa. It's always great to hear more about this project, and particularly I'm fascinated by this work on emojis and stickers, because I want to ask you more about method for getting at that affective level, because famously the affective response of the body is pre-linguistic. So if you ask people to talk about it, it won't be affective anymore. So I've been grappling with that because I'm myself, getting back to the discussion we were having this morning, quite addicted to stickers.
Yes.
And they're so
stickers.
they're so expressive somehow. Like there's things that I find myself in daily conversations wanting to use a sticker, like to things you can't say in words, right? Somehow just a feeling or a vibe or an expression that you can't capture any other way. But about researching them and what it means to people beyond ourselves.
Yes.
Can you talk more about that method? I mean, you talked about the hands, but how exactly do you do that?
Yeah. So, so we were filming the hands. So that's, and we were getting people to reenact. So we got a sense of, and they were actually going also through their messages and stuff like that. So we would see older messages, and we would be like, okay, so why did you do this there? And just kind of interrogating that way. But I think there is a broader project to be done there in terms of linking social media with other forms like email, because a lot of people still use email, and emojis do shift between those two areas, and they are very much, I think of Esther Milne's work around email, because there hasn't actually been that much, email is still, everyone thought email would be dead, but it's still actually, and this is where, at times when, you might be on your phone and using Facebook and using an emoji, and then you flick to your email and suddenly you're doing emojis on there, and that kind of relationship between, in the same screen, these very different contexts. So I think there's definitely more work that needs to be done in terms of that kind of, those polymedia environments and understanding the different contexts where they are used. And so for us, it was about intergenerational kind of, because it seemed to be the thing that people could get most wrong, like the grandma kind of does the wrong smiley face, or like me, thinking I was really cool, getting this kind of, cheeky thing, which actually just meant, F off. So, those kind of, very, and they are very tacit, and they are very, in that way, so that there is so much, they are very much, they're visual. And so it is that idea that they are like 1,000 words, that they can actually say. You could sit there writing a whole lot of things, I'm so sorry, but you could send something which could actually get a lot of that nuanced. It can also get very unnuanced and be wrong. But yes, so I think, we've only just started looking at this emoji thing, so phenomena, so it's still very in grassroots, but yeah, it is still trying to feel our way through, because a lot of, as I said, a lot of the literature is still focused on, affective labour in that very kind of almost Marxist, bringing this is exploitation to the neoliberalist subjects, and it's like when you actually look at people when they're experiencing care at a distance, sometimes those little emojis can say so much and make people feel so assured that a whole lot of words can't necessarily say. So yeah, there's definitely much more work that needs to be done. But yeah, I don't think I answered your question. It's a fantastic question, and it's like, but the tactile ethnography research, that was led by Sarah, and it's that we did one paper on that. That's definitely an area that, particularly because I'm quite interested in haptic screens and what that starts to do to our relationship to content and meaning. So yeah, it's a big
Another
can of
question,
worms.
we have about 3.5 minutes.
Precisely, yes.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. Oh, cross the bean bags. Yeah. I saw an emoji jump up then.
Thank you very much. This is foreign territory to me, because I'm an email user, and mainly
Yes.
for work.
Yes.
And I think Kat's about the only person who sends work emails with emojis. So when is an emoji not used?
Well, I think this is where I was mentioning Esther Milne's work, because in work contexts you have to be quite careful about there's some transgressions there, but the thing is that in those transgressions they can reinforce power, in terms of, and it's also cultural as well. So
That's what I was wondering. You
yes.
get it wrong, like you got it wrong.
Yes, really badly got it wrong.
Badly.
Yes.
And it's
Yes.
like making jokes,
Yes. Yes.
You could get it culturally so wrong.
Completely. Yes.
So
yes.
you have to be in a safe place to use emojis.
Yes. Well, there's a kind of a level of trust that has to happen between. So it is about reinforcing a type of intimacy that is already there. Like, you couldn't do it to somebody that you didn't really know very well, because you wouldn't even know if they understood them, or how they viewed them, or So there's definitely there's a level of depth and intimacy that needs to happen there first before that can be practiced. I think. But I think the cultural nuances of it really need to be fleshed out much more, because, the what a sticker means, what sticker means in WeChat is quite different than what a sticker means in Line. So Line is often used much more for, as I said, like family genealogies. Often the families that we interviewed in Japan, they were always talking about Line as used to reinforce kingship, digital kingship, so which is not necessarily the case in WeChat. But some of the arguments around emojis have been, and stickers have been, that they're branding our emotions, and that they're a form of, cruel optimism, and that, we're enslaved neoliberalist subjects and all that kind of stuff. But I think actually there's more to be said about the playful, powerful ways in which they can actually be used for that care at distance kind of more feminist project, I think. So I might send you an email with an emoji on it. Supriya. The challenge is on. I feel like that's a game on moment.
Okay, 1 minute, and one very short question.
Thanks, Larissa. That was absolutely brilliant. Are you finding in your project where there are new evolutions of cultures are evolving within those platforms? So, for example, my students, I never knew this, informed me that the eggplant never used that as an emoji.
Oh, no.
I did not know this.
No, yes.
There is a reason why. It looks like...
Yes.
I'll let our minds go there, and you're absolutely correct.
Yeah.
But do you find that that there will be pockets of people who start using these emojis differently, even though they're on the same platform?
Yes.
So it becomes kind of cultish.
Yes.
Are you finding that?
Well, we haven't. I mean, this is very initial stages, so we haven't dug down that deeply, but we definitely should, because I think there's specific logics within each platform, but there's also specific logic in terms of yes, I can read. Okay, right. So there's I think in terms of the platform, there's certain logics, but it's also very culturally specific. And I think, like if you think about kawaii cultures, like they started off as being like the Hello Kitties, and the way that Hello Kitty got used by, like gay communities as a kind of subversive. So I think that there is another project there for subversive use and doing it badly in a really intentional way. So, thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks.